What if I told you that your church might be making leadership decisions more like a family business than the body of Christ? Because that's what's happening in the corporate world, and it's quietly creeping into the pulpit. Stay with me. My name is Jonathan, and welcome to Everyday Discipleship, where deep theology meets real life. So if you want clarity, conviction, and Christ at the center, you're at the right place. So if you're getting any value from this video, please like it so it can get the word out to more people, and subscribe to this channel so you can get more content like this. Now let's get into it. Recently, T.D. Jakes stepped down as senior pastor at the Potter's House Church in Dallas and appointed his daughter, Sarah Jakes Roberts, and her husband as pastors. And this is not the first time that this has happened. Earlier last week, churchleaders.com released an article about how Dr. Ed Young of Second Baptist Church in Houston influenced the congregation to appoint his son, Dr. Ben Young, as his successor. So today, we're going to be talking about something sensitive but necessary: pastoral succession, nepotism, and the health of the local church. So let's get our terms clearly. What is nepotism? Nepotism is the practice of giving positions of power or influence to relatives, especially without regard to qualifications. In the corporate world, this is expected. Businesses often pass down leadership through family lines. Think of the Waltons with Walmart or the Murdochs with Fox. It's baked into the DNA of how legacy works in business. But the church is not a business. It's not a brand or a personal empire. It is the body of Christ, and that changes everything. Because God does not call people based on their bloodline. He calls based on His divine purpose. And just because someone carries a last name does not mean that they carry that same calling. Now, before we go any further, I want to be transparent with you. My dad is a pastor. I'm a pastor. So I'm not speaking out of critique from the outside. I'm speaking from experience on the inside. I'm someone who was saved under my dad's ministry, baptized in my dad's ministry, discipled in my dad's ministry, and grew in leadership in my dad's ministry. But when I felt the call to ministry, I had a choice. I could have stayed in my father's church, continue to serve under his leadership, and maybe one day take over his church, or make the right decision, and that is the decision to leave. Not out of disrespect and not out of rebellion, but one out of conviction. I wanted my calling to be affirmed through other churches, pastors, leaders, and people who had no reason to promote me other than the fact that they seen God's grace in my life, that God was clearly at work. And by God's grace, that is what happened. I had people who weren't related to me pour into me, affirm me, and even challenge me. And that process shaped me in ways a shortcut never could have. So I say this not to condemn pastors who raise up their children, but to say it must be about calling, conviction, and competence, not about convenience, comfort, or control. So let's take it to the scriptures. Because when Paul lays out the qualifications of what a leader should look like in the local church in 1 Timothy and Titus, notice what's missing. There's no mention of family connection. Instead, we see that an overseer therefore must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, self-controlled, sensible, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not an excessive drinker, not a bully, but gentle, not quarrelsome, meaning someone who's not argumentative, not greedy. He must manage his own household competently and have his own children under control with all dignity. For if anyone does not know how to manage his own household, how will he take care of God's church? He must not be a new convert, or he might become conceited and incur the same condemnation as the devil. Furthermore, he must have a good reputation among outsiders so that he does not fall into disgrace and the devil's trap. Look what Paul says in Titus, that an elder must be blameless, the husband of one wife, with faithful children who are not accused of wildness or rebellion. For as an overseer of God's household, he must be blameless, not arrogant, not hot-tempered, not an excessive drinker, not a bully, not greedy for money, but hospitable, loving what is good, sensible, righteous, holy, self-controlled, holding to the faithful message as taught, so that he will be able to encourage with sound doctrine and refute those who contradict it. See, the pattern that we see in these two letters from Paul is that tested character, theological clarity, and visible fruit is the pattern. Nowhere in the text is there room for, here is my son, here is my daughter. It's their turn. God calls whom he wills, and his calling is confirmed by the community, not just the Father's word. So what happens when we get this wrong? Number one, we're going to see a loss of accountability. When the next leader is your son or daughter, who corrects them? Who rebukes them if needed? Who tells them you're off track? Number 2, a culture of entitlement. Jesus modeled servant leadership. He said that the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. But nepotism often inverts that. It creates leaders who expect deference rather than give service. Number 3, undermining the church's trust. Even if the person is gifted, people question the process. Was it prayerful discernment or family preservation? That doubt erodes trust. Churches often split over these issues. Staff turnover increases, momentum dies. Why? Because the church begins to feel like it's being inherited, not stewarded. Now let's be fair. God can and does call family members into ministry succession. The issue isn't the family connection, it's how that transition happens. For example, it works when there's a clear calling that is affirmed by the Spirit and the church. There's visible competency, not just charisma, but character and fruit. There's biblical qualifications that is seen and confirmed in real life. And then there's the community affirmation, not just a family promotion. It's not just dad thinks I'm ready. It's God has called me and the church sees it too. Now, let's bring this home with a real life comparison, a tale of two churches. On one hand, you have Pete Scazzaro, the founding pastor of New Life Fellowship Church in Queens. Now, this is a unique situation because Pete and Rich are not related. We can see what a good succession plan looks like. Pete built a gospel-centered, emotionally healthy church with a deep commitment to discipleship, formation, and ethnic diversity. And when the time came to step down, he didn't simply look within his family, he looked for the person that God was clearly raising up. And that person was Rich Velotis, a younger Puerto Rican pastor on staff who had grown into deep spiritual maturity and earned the trust of the church community. Rich didn't just carry Pete's legacy, he took it further. That's biblical succession. That's a healthy leadership handoff. But then there's the other side of the coin. Take John Osteen, a seasoned preacher and the founder of Lakewood Church. After his passing, leadership was handed over to his son, Joel. And now let's be honest, Joel is not his father. Whatever you think of John's theology, he was a Bible preacher. Joel, on the other hand, has turned Lakewood Church into the largest church by preaching a gospel of self-esteem, prosperity, and personal success. The message changed, the focus shifted, the pulpit became a platform, and the message became a brand. No one outside of the family confirmed Joel's calling. There was no discernible testing of his preaching, theology, or pastoral character before he took the stage. It was an inherited throne, not a discerned calling. That's not biblical. That's branding. The difference? Discernment over dynasty, formation over favoritism, calling over convenience. Friends, this isn't about churches in the headlines. This is about the future health of the local church. The local church must resist the pull to operate like a family-owned business. Christ is the head, not the founding pastor. And leadership must be determined by calling, character, and competence, not last names. So whether you're a pastor thinking about your legacy or a church member watching the next generation rise, ask yourself, are we listening to God's voice or preserving our own? Listen, if this video challenged you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. And until next time, remember, ministry is not something we inherit. It's something we are entrusted with by God for His glory.